tendency to stand on what someone says with their rhetoric. So the things that we see, the things that we can say can incite things. I know that's not an excuse for any side having, any level of violence, but we've both sides of the aisle have gone towards a more darker way of existing. And all we're doing is, as followers of these political parties, is just pushing that rhetoric forward. It's just us as an ecosystem, and not to have the divide be more politically based. It's socially based, and with that, to me, there is contributions from both sides, because it's not just, hey, someone has gotten out here and done something. It's also the rhetoric, the things that are put out there that allows those who might be less inclined to follow the law to do things. So in a particular platform, you have to be careful with your words, and if you're not, things happen, and then, where we are right now is exactly how we get here. So I do believe, not while wholly on both ends, there's been contributions from both the conservative side and the liberal side as far as pushing forward an unintended agenda that could include violence.
I think I want to speak to that because I think that we on this side, you and I could be wrong, most closely align on things, but I also want to speak to that nuance of difference that a large demographic of people may feel. So I was struggling initially, with this question. But the reason I ultimately said that both sides, both political parties, let's be clear, I'm probably gonna be a lot of people mad this episode. We got to get away from that. That's part of the problem. That is part of the problem. Even amongst us, there's so much nuance. You know what I'm saying? There's literally each one of you have said you are 4 different types of conservatives, and that's fine, because you're 4 different people. And the same for us. You know what I mean? Tangent pause. Going back to this, I do think that both sides, I condemn political violence. I'm going to start out and say right off the top, if you celebrate someone, even if you don't like them for their murder, I think that's appalling. And I will always stand on that, and I hope I never get to that point over politics that I feel that way. And I know it has to do with a lot of other things, like things that people said and all those things. But we, on either side of whatever you believe, cannot ever get to the point, because it's dangerous for everyone, where we are applauding violence. And I know that's different than sympathizing and having sentiments for someone and agreeing with someone and pointing out that you did not agree with them when they are alive. So I'm just making that as a blanket statement. So both sides have responsibility as Americans for being this is the standard, as we always had, as it was in the 90s when I grew up, that we're not going to do that. Historically, it has come more from the right side if you go from historical context. And I saw that from research, and I don't want to take up a lot of time, so we can get into that, and I can share why I think that is and give some examples. I'll even say even the DOJ discovered now, which Trump just had removed as of September this month, 2025, that a lot of the violence comes from, he had this from his own Department of Justice, that our biggest threat is white nationalist, white supremacy. And that's just facts, and that's what it's been. Even what we're experiencing right now has been someone under that criteria. And I'm not trying to blame, but the last point I'll make, it's we even see that the left has been, there was no absolute that person was on the left side or anything like that, but yet that hate and that rhetoric from what happened with Charlie Kirk's assassination, which should have never happened, there's still this hate and this call to action, and we have people marching in the streets talking about white men fight back. So I'd love
because I don't like the definition of hate speech. I'll tell you, I've been on media real quickly. I disrupted a drag queen story time for children because this is my tax money. Don't go and tell children that they're a mistake. I believe that's evil, okay? You're planting in their head that they are born in the wrong body. How are these kids, they're going to be dysfunctional.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you.
And so they said that what I was spewing out was hate speech in this thing. That's not hateful, that's loving, because I believe they were beautifully and wonderfully made by God.
You're bringing your story, and I realize this is the only perspective you can come from because
I've lived it.
So what I was going to ask was, the reason why I asked what color it would be, first of all, hate speech is not defined. There are dog whistles that happen that could be construed as hate speech. The reason why I said it should be protected is because we as people will come up with a different word to make something else, and guess what? All we're doing is building an 11-foot ladder for a 10-foot wall. So the protection now, the other part to it is, because it's protected, it does not mean that you cannot somewhere in your life, in your personal life, your friends, whatever, suffer consequences for that action. period. So I believe in the notion of free speech. So my question to you, the reason why I asked that was, in that same rhetoric, what do you feel about what happened with Jimmy Kimmel? Because that is a pure attack. So I would ask, actually, Chelsea, I would ask you to see that in a real time unfold. And if you look historically, what has happened when there's an autocracy and you don't like, and mind you, there's so many to blame in this too. It's not just the FCC. This is also Disney, saying, guess what? I have a deal that's in place. This is much bigger than this. So my question would be, how would you say that, considering that he has been on the side of criticizing the current administration?
I hate the idea of anyone being canceled. I hate the idea that Trump's, Twitter was banned for so long, right? I think it's almost ironic, though, that everything happened with Jimmy Kimmel, and there's such a rush to defend him, like, oh my God, he was just saying words, he should still have this platform. And yet, the assassination with Kirk, like, he said things and people hated that and he got shot and people did celebrate that. So there just seems to be a double standard where Jimmy Kimmel should still have his show and be able to say whatever he wants. But then with people on the right, it's like so catastrophic if they say anything or if they speak out in their own way. So I just look back and I'm like, there's so much irony here. I don't think people should be killed over things. I don't think they should be canceled over things. I wish that, there was a late night show where we didn't have to talk about politics, where it was really like off the table. Like, I want relief from that. I feel like also like your situation, like you were saying, like people got to spend more time with you and it suddenly shifted from calling you this word to seeing you as a human. I wish there was more outlets where I could just hear from the humans. And I know that involves politics in a way, but I just feel like I've had the most beautiful, loving experiences with people without ever having to get into politics. And I feel like it gets ruined when that gets put into it. So in a way, it's like, maybe it's bad. I would rather be a little bit naive and not so consumed by it, because it allows me to still have an open heart and not trying to cancel people out and not have them as friends. Like, I've had that toward me. Like, I've always been a very open person. So when people found out that I did vote as a Republican, at first it was funny to them because I never thought Trump would win. But when he did, it's like I became a real problem to people and I lost a lot of people and they loved me before. And that was tough.
Where one of the biggest issues is when it comes to the political structure is this. Voting for self-interest or for what you're considering maybe is your collective set of people. It is difficult, I do believe, for people to first and foremost vote against their own self-interest, despite whatever else might be said. And that person, I remember when Bush was elected the second time, and there was these two cute little old ladies who were in the airport, and they says, okay, so get off the airplane, he wins, and she's like, you know what, I didn't vote for him, but just let him finish the job, And it was, we get to a point sometimes there is complacency amongst us, and whatever the issue is that's present for you is what's going to take over. I don't see how anyone can see past that. So I can understand voting. I voted, Republican. I have never voted straight ticket. I will go and look at an issue and see if that's something. And I always want to caution to lump everyone. And you see this on any of the stations, the African American vote, the anything, and that is completely unfair. That, again, starts to centralize a group that shouldn't be that way anyway, because that means that you have to think this way. But we are such a divide that our listening skills are moot, because the best art, the part of listening, is being able to hear what your person is saying, not already coming with a formulated.
You started out your injection. You started out your statement with saying that we both all, as a group in totality.
And that's what I think you're saying. You understand the. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, because I wouldn't want to.
We're pushing back on things that are being inaccurately represented. So you cannot say that you see. The thing about it is, we said out the gate, we do not condone that. Much to the detriment and pushback of a lot of our own communities. But what we're not sitting up here doing, respectfully, which is what I'm hearing from you, I don't want to speak for you because I feel like that's impolite. So you could tell me if I have it wrong. But it seems as though that you're inferring that the January 6th was just a protest that got out of hand, or equating it to, and let's be also clear, Black people, liberals, are not the only ones that rioted after George Floyd.
I totally know that.
The entire planet.
Well,
the entire planet. Think about that.
did a lot of
to come
rioting,
back to the prompt, when you talk about one side having more political violence, especially historically, the entire planet got tired of the white supremacy-led political violence that happens in this country and the violence that happens to people. It is what it is. Why do you think they rioted after this? And the thing is, It says, I can sit up here and say, I did not agree. I've been on some of the same shows Charlie Kirk was on, and I am disgusted what happened to him. I am deeply bothered on a spiritual level. Like, I am deeply bothered by that because I don't need someone to die to see them as a human. This is why the rest of the people that are not like me, but are like me to your guys' eyes, feel the way they do. Because they are not there. You are right now in real time dehumanizing George Floyd. That should have never happened to him. That is not a move that most police departments don't even allow because it's lethal. I don't care what he did. Nothing warranted that. And nothing Charlie Kirk said warranted him being shot in the neck.
I agree with that 100%.
And that is the problem. And that is why a lot of people who have not done the work on themselves like I have feel the way they do.
I completely agree with what you said there, and I totally agree with that. And like I said, I definitely appreciate it, and I can tell that you have a really good heart. And I, again, in no way mean to dehumanize anybody or say that anybody agreed. I was responding to what she had said.
Derek
Chauvin
was a criminal in that situation, not George Floyd.
And Derek Chauvin was a criminal in that situation, so that I also agree with. I was responding to what she said. It seemed that she was saying, I understand people not being upset by the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There was actually videos on TikToks where they were like dancing and celebrating. And I think that for that to be even understandable is a problem. And it's a problem that the left refers to the right constantly as fascists and Nazis and racists. And that is dehumanizing. So and I think there is that level of dehumanization.
Though. And I think that that is problematic. But I also think that when people see racist things happening,
how do we know that it was about race, though? How do we know that
what was about race?
That the whole George Floyd was a race thing?
I'm not referring to that.
Because did you know that there was a
but
whole
I'm not
clip?
Can
I finish what I'm saying?
In general, I said racist things.
Okay, let me finish real quick.
Every time I refer to that, I've said specifically that example.
Okay, let me finish this. Well, this is the problem with the media. They take sound bites and they don't show you the whole thing. Did you ever see the clip that was taken out that you didn't see about George Floyd? Did you see that, where he was already in the car telling people he couldn't breathe, and you see him popping a fentanyl? Did you see that?
Are you justifying Derek Chauvin being on George Floyd's back for 9 minutes?
Okay, now there's
Are you justifying Derek Chauvin?
Actually,
okay. So
from this,
can you
answer that question?
Can you
answer that question?
Now, yeah.
Answer that.
So I don't care if he was riding a unicorn on Mars before.
You're gonna let me finish. From this view, it looks like his knee is on his neck. Well, they had the view from this angle, and it was actually on the shoulder blade. So this is what happened in the court. And this is somebody...
Should his foot have been on the shoulder blade for 9 minutes?
It was on the shoulder blade, but the thing
wherever it was.
He was struggling in the car. He was already in the car at a point, talking about not being able to breathe. Actually, the way he died was not because of that. He died because he popped fentanyl. That was the lies, because they want to pit us together. This is a divide and conquer tactic. The media wants to use this. Why don't they ever talk about all these children being butchered in Chicago from gangs? Why aren't they on the cover of the magazines? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. They want us to be divided. And they do this. They pit people against each other. Whites against blacks. Gays against heterosexuals. You know, Jews against Zionists, against the people in Gaza, Palestinians. It's all divide and conquer. That's why we got to stop allowing the media to divide us and turn it off and read the bills.